Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I'm Jose Munoz. Today I'm going to talk about something very controversial and a little bit emotional, but hopefully, if you didn't know about this or you're on the fence, you'll start thinking about it. So what we're talking about is physician-assisted suicide and euthanasia. So we'll start off with the basics. What is it? Physician-assisted suicide is when a physician facilitates a patient's death by providing the necessary means or information to enable the patient to perform the life-ending act. Euthanasia is a painless killing of patients suffering from an incurable disease or an irreversible coma. The big difference between these two is that in physician-assisted suicide, the patient administers the medication themselves, and in euthanasia, the physician is the one who who provides the lethal dose of the substance that will ultimately terminate the patient's life. And in euthanasia, there's two types. There's passive and active. Passive would be to withhold life-saving measures such as life support or even things as antibiotics. And active is actively giving the patient the lethal dose. So where is it legal? As you can see in this map here, the blue states are that's where it's illegal. So we have a couple important ones like Oregon. That was where it first became legal in '94, and you might notice a different color here in Montana. So even though it is not completely legal there, in Montana with a judge order, you can apply for assisted suicide. Also, you have various countries throughout the world like Belgium, Netherlands, Switzerland, Australia, and Canada where assisted suicide is legal. So you might ask yourself, what what brings a person to want to end their life? And you might ask yourself, what are the requirements to make that life and that decision? So in the United States and in most countries, terminal illness is the main cause. So for example, 65% of assisted suicide patients are malignant neoplasms. We know them as cancer, and this ranges from anywhere from breast to prostate to pancreatic cancer. Then you have neuromuscular disease, which is 20%, which would be things like ALS or other degenerative diseases, and other. So that's other diseases such as respiratory or heart disease. When it comes to a lot of these diseases are a death sentence. For example, ALS. When it comes to ALS, it is a degenerative disease where little by little you start losing that connection from your brain to your muscles, and you start off by losing mobility, strength, the ability to talk, and eventually you will die because you will not be able to breathe. It, with this ALS, it's 100% fatal. So I'm going to show you guys a really quick clip on ALS.
After Menard's death, Christina Simmons moved to Oregon so she could have
Give you a little insight.
Christina suffers from ALS, a degenerative disease that causes paralysis, respiratory failure, and is 100% fatal. When did you start thinking about the right to die or having a aided death?
I saw Brittany Maynard's story on TV, and that just shocked me. I had no idea that you didn't have that option in California. So I'm watching this going, wow. Because I read what happened in the end of my disease. The only thing removing the end are eyeballs. I don't want to go through that hole, and I certainly don't want to put my kids in that.
So how old is everyone?
Okay, tell them.
So as you can see, this certain individual moved up to Oregon because when this was recorded at that time, it was still illegal in California, and she did not want to go through that degenerative process of ALS where you become completely immobile. Another thing that constitutes assisted suicide in Belgium and Netherlands is mental illness. This has been more recent, but again in Belgium and the Netherlands, mental illness can be seen as a illness. So even though it's not terminal, it is a illness where assisted suicide can be requested. There's a case of Aurelia Browers. She was only 29 years old, and she wanted assisted suicide because she was extremely depressed and had mental illness. A direct quote from her says, "I'm 29 years old and I've chosen to be voluntarily euthanized. I've chosen this because I have a lot of mental health issues. I suffer unbearably and hopelessly. Every breath I take is torture." These words are very strong and frankly quite sad. This person is living with some sort of depression and hopelessness that I cannot even understand. And and as her psychiatrist saw that she cannot be better through medicine or therapy, they went through with the euthanasia. And so you might ask yourself, why do people want to die, and is it even moral for doctors to do this? Well, I believe it is. Everybody should have the right to die and to die with dignity. Most of these people have been handed a death sentence. We have the luxury of not knowing when and how we're going. These people know when and how they're going, and it must be extremely stressful and frightening for them. And by them being able to choose when to die must come as a relief for them. There are many advocates for the right to die. A big advocate is Stephen Hawking. He's really smart guy, and he also had a degenerative disease. And he says, "I think those who have a terminal illness and are in great pain should have the right to choose to end their own life, and those that help them should be free from prosecution." This man was a quadriplegic, and his life had to be assisted, and even then he knew that people should have a right to choose how to end their life if they choose not to live confined to a wheelchair or to be in assistance. And Brittany Maynard, an advocate, also said, "Having the choice at the end of my life has become incredibly important. It has given me a sense of peace during a time that otherwise would be dominated by fear, uncertainty, and pain." Again, as I said, these people are faced with their own mortality and know when and how they're going to die. And I can only imagine how horrifying that must be. And then for them to have a little control and be able to choose where and how they're dying instead of succumbing to the illness must be a great relief to them in this time of great uncertainty. So hopefully you when bills come up for physician assisted dying, you vote for them so people can have this access and this right and have peace of mind. Thank you.